Abu Bakr ibn Mujahid only selected 7 of them. Before them, we have Tabari actually selecting 30 readings. We have Abu Ubaid Qasim ibn Salam selecting 25, and he was also a state emissary. He had a state position as well. So his selection and his choice was as if it was being adopted by state authorities. So it received a lot of impetus, and hence you find that his choice prevailed.
The requirement of proper Arabic starts dropping away, while before, like in the time of Tabari, it was perfectly reasonable to say some of these readings were wrong, and wrong for grammatical reasons. But at some point, that kind of rationality about that gets relegated to, no, chain of transmission is the only thing that matters. So not only Tabari rejects readings, even Ibn Mujahid himself, so the guy who canonized the 7 readings, in his book that became the canon of the 7 readings, there's a couple of times where he says, no, I think this is wrong. He's wrong about this. And even so, he's a student of one of the transmitters of Ibn Kathir. He said, no, I think my teacher's wrong here. This can't be right. The end.
There's no correlation between the 7 readings and the 7 ahruf. Okay? So that's one of the problems in the tradition, and that's one of the criticisms against Ibn Mujahid, that he chose 7 readings, making people think that the 7 readings are the 7 ahruf. So there's no correlation whatsoever between the 7 eponymous readings of Ibn Mujahid and or what we'll later on know as these Qiraats and the 7 ahruf. So that's one. One of the misconceptions that that we have is that the 7 or the 10 readings are stagnant, that they are the same today as they used to be during Ibn Mujahid's time. And this is completely inaccurate, because if you see the variants that Ibn Mujahid chose in his book, there are many variants that they were different from how 100 years later on Ash-Shatibi systematized. It's different from how it used to be later on. It's different from before Ibn Mujahid. And when we read more sources and we compare how each reader had many different students, and the students of the eponymous readers, they also differed among each other. When you start the progression, when you study the development of the readings, and you see that before Ibn Mujahid, many of the readings that Ibn Mujahid considered to be canonical or later on became canonical, they were rejected early on. And the best example of this is Hamza. The reading of Hamza, Zayyat, for a long time, it was rejected even by Kufis. And you go to any of the early biographical dictionaries on Hamza and you read about his reading, people rejected it. They called it an innovation. And this is an established part of the literature. In the Dhahabi, the historian, he discusses that in the biography of Hamza, and he says, yes, Muslim scholars rejected the Dhahabi, they rejected Hamza, they hated his reading, they disliked it because of this and that. However, and the Dhahabi was right here, the consensus now is to consider Hamza's reading valid. In one of the Ottoman period Hanafi works of fiqh, they are giving an advice for imams when they are leading prayers in some distant places, and they say, do not lead people in prayer and recite in readings that would make people laugh, such as the reading of Hamza or the reading of Abu Ja'far of the 10. Read in a way that people would recognize. Okay? So this is an advice to the imam or to the person who's going to lead other people in prayer. People don't know about qiraat. So whether Ibn Mas'ud's reading makes sense or not, and many of Ibn Mas'ud's reading and Ubay's reading and many of the non-canonical readings, many of them make more sense than many of the 7 readings or the 10 readings. And that's a statement by many exegetes and grammarians. But that's not what they are concerned about. They are concerned whether you can use this reading in ritual prayer, whether this is Quran, capital Q, or not. So whether a reading makes sense or not, that's not the criterion.
That Abu Bakr ibn Mujahid only selected 7 of them. Before them,